We need to order. Okay, we're gonna start with Rob.
Motion to accept the minutes.
Thank you. Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, good evening, everyone. Morning. First item I have, or the item I have on the agenda is Adirondack peer-to-peer. It's actually going to be a joint presentation with Ken and Jeremy Dewars is going to be joining us. He's our Adirondack peer-to-peer coordinator. It's the veterans program you've probably heard of in the past. Joseph P. Breyer funding that all counties in New York State money. So peer support with them. But he was helping a veteran this morning, so he's a little bit delayed. And have another item I'd like to bring up, if I could, while we're waiting for it, see if Jeremy found out. Had a request last month to for payment of an examination related to the PURPOs or extreme risk protective orders. You may have heard about these, but it was a fairly recent change where law enforcement agencies that get involved in a situation where they feel risk, they must file for these PURPOs. And when that's our sheriff's office, my understanding, and Roger, you can be incorrect here, but my understanding is that when it's our sheriff's office, then it falls upon county to basically follow through and, for lack of a better term, prosecute the case or bring forward the case. What happens is initially there's a temporary order where they can move firearms, but then there's a 10-day window and they set a hearing. And there's supposed to be a hearing and to see if there'll be a final order issued where the guns are removed or weapons and firearms are removed for a longer period of time. As part of this process, I was reached out to by the county to see, could we get some sort of an examination of this youth? It was a lesson to determine, what is the level of risk here, because they have to go to court and make their case as to whether or not they really feel those firearms should be removed for a longer period. So I reached out to, it's sort of an urgent matter, and I reached out to our examiner, psychologist, Kim Brayton, on some of our 730 examinations. And she was willing to do this. However, she wanted to do a kind of a battery of tests because she didn't want to, she wanted to be sure she had a thorough examination that she could rely on in terms of making this assessment as to what is a true risk here. So it was a battery of tests. It turned out being costing about $1,100 for the examination. However, I'm bringing this up because I think there's a bigger picture here. And in fact, we've received another request now. Worked it out with Brian and Al and everything last year to pay that examination out of the same line that we pay for our psychiatric examinations that are ordered by the court. The 730 exams are typically what comes out of there. Those are the competency exams. This is a little different. And I didn't know if, going forward, if there needs to be a kind of a broader planning for how we're going to handle these, or is there consensus that we just keep paying for them out of that same line? It's a little bit different type of examination. So, that's a good question.
Anyone have any questions?
And I don't really know a way to predict, are we going to see 5 of these this year? Or are we going to start seeing more and more?
They just started in October, so we don't know. We don't know how many we're going to see. Especially with juveniles, the kids say stupid things, right? So they can provoke a reaction. The question is this a kid saying a stupid thing, or is this a kid who's got a serious problem that might allow him to do something? And that's why we're relying on Rob to examine some of these kids and say, is this just a kid looking to provoke a reaction? And remember, it's the weapons we're removing are not the kids, because kids can't possess them. It's the parents. stuff we're taking away because their kid is doing whatever they did. So, we like to make sure that, you know, that we're helping the judge, giving the judge enough information to make a proper decision based on that. So again, zero experience or, you know, months of experience, I'm not sure. I can tell you how many, if we've already had 2 in November, December, 4 months, then I may extrapolate out fairly well, but I just don't. And it's mandatory that the sheriff has probable cause, which is the lowest level of lowest burden that there is. If he thinks it's more, you know, somebody makes an allegation, then he has to file one of these things immediately. And if it's a DA case, the DA will file his own. But you know, this is, I think when we're talking about is something happened in school, somebody said something was hopefully just intemperate in school, and you know how schools are sensitive to that, rightfully so. And so it initiates the process. So I can't tell you what our history is going to be.
So Sam first and then Cassie.
Yeah, I think my question would be for Al, and the reason for it is transparency. I don't know if we could make us a separate account with dollars to go in for that specific purpose, so that we would know very transparently for the public and anybody else who need the information, how many of those we had actually done, what it was costing, and what we were putting towards that effort, rather than having it all lumped into one and then try to sort it out at some point in time. Just to figure out.
And I think for Rob and the board to make informed decisions in the future, there's definitely a benefit to separating out the psychiatric costs from the HERPO costs. It's easy enough to do if you so choose to go down that path. That account, just to throw this into the mix, that account has $250,000 budgeted in it. Last year, to date, we spent $517, and I don't think all the bills are in yet. So just to give you a kind of we're already behind the 8 ball. And this account's already going to need to be addressed, regardless of what we do with it. I think that if the HERPOs are here to stay, there might be a benefit to keeping a separate line so that Rob and the board can kind of monitor what's going through there. Right.
Same question.
Okay.
You too.
And I think we ought to do that. Is there any reason why we can't do that right now?
Absolutely not. And I don't know if you want to take a bite at if Rob, do you think that account should get some attention now, or you want to roll the dice and see how it plays out?
Well, we just
Because
received,
we're half of what we spent last year now.
yeah, we just received the November bill yesterday. They had trouble, for some reason it got returned to sender. No idea why it didn't get delivered. So they sent me a scan of it yesterday, so I don't have the original signature yet, but I have the scan. And it was 30,000 for November. So that represents one individual, because it's about $1,000 a day.
So there'll be another month after that.
So December, if that person remained in there, would likely be 30,000.
So you're 578-ish all in last year.
So you're asking if you think we should make a transfer into that account now, so.
Yeah, I'm asking Rob if we could proactively get something in there, kind of wait and see how it plays out. I'm open to either.
Yeah, it's not fair to people who are owed the money for evaluations either. Don't wait 2 months for us to sort it out.
Well, we'll pay the bills regardless, Supervisor. We have a deal with the clerk of the board that while it's going through our committee process, we'll pay the invoices with a resolution pending. So we won't hurt the vendor that way.
So are you gonna pull the funds for this out of the general fund?
So this would be an appropriation of fund balance if you wanted to beef this account up a little bit.
Probably should do it sooner rather than later, so we
Because
don't.
the thing
Too many
is,
accounts
if you
sitting
bump this account up to $500,000 and you don't spend it, it just stays in fund balance, so there's no harm. But it's there if you need it, so there's really no downside to proactively getting it.
Yeah, I was gonna say, we've been behind on this almost the last 3-4 years, but we need to beef it up. And I'll move it to finance.
I'll second it.
Any other discussion?
What we'll do, Chairman, is we'll bump the psychiatric in, we'll create a new line for the HERPO and both.
So do we need 2 motions?
Now, that's what I heard him say.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay.
All encompassing motion.
Yeah. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, then going back to my item that's on the agenda. I'm just gonna say one piece of it, and really I was, turn it over to Ken and to Jeremy Dewars, who's joined us. Jeremy is our Adirondack peer-to-peer program coordinator. The reason this is sort of a shared arrangement between my office and veterans is that the funding comes to us, it flows through the Office of Mental Health. Initially, it was a Senate member item for the select counties. But now it's part of the New York State budget, and they expanded it to be part to be across the state. So every county now has access to these. Joseph P. Dwyer, who's peer-to-peer support funding. So we were fortunate to get on board several years ago. We tried keeping it in-house, hired at the county level, and went through a few coordinators, just didn't really work out. $5,000 a year for a 2-county program. So we decided to go through an RFP process, maybe a year and a half ago. And so we selected SUNY Adirondack, the vendor for the program. And they've hired Jeremy. And I guess at this point, that's my piece of it, is that the funding flows through us from the Office of Mental Health. But it's a veterans support program, so we work very closely with Ken. And, he has that in his agenda too, so I'll turn it over to Ken and Jeremy. All right.
Thank you.
So I introduced Jeremy last time. I'm just going to bring him by so he can kind of update everybody on new events up and coming and things to be aware of on the horizon. Jeremy.
All right, well, I apologize for being late. It's a good thing, a bad thing, but a good thing that the traffic for usage of the program has increased dramatically. As a matter of fact, I was on the phone with a veteran this morning. Some of the major issues that we're seeing: housing insecurity, food insecurity, and substance abuse. Those are the 3 big ones that we're kind of hot plates right now that we're dealing with. As Rob indicated before, I think there's an initiative at the state level to transfer the Dwyer program from OMH over to Veterans Services. I think there's been some debate at the state level. I attended an assembly meeting down in Albany to talk with some of those folks down there. I'm of the opinion that it should remain with OMH, simply because it underscores that mental health aspect. We're focusing on PTSD, traumatic brain injury. And then, every other veteran's need out there, of course. We'll see because now that Veterans Services is being bumped up from a division to a department, things might change. So we'll see. But I've been following that progress to see what happens. And I'll of course give updates as they come in. The work has been aggressive but slow going. I think I indicated last time I was here that it was going to be literally house to house fighting, and that's what it's been. However, we've made some inroads, and I've been able to refer some very needy veterans who don't have any service-connected disabilities. It's just been kind of languishing over to Ken and to other VSOs in Warren County as well. And we're finding venues where we can have some of our monthly events. We're focusing on topics for veterans that are of specific interest to veterans. So this month, we're doing an event run by Chris Thomas, who's a retired Sergeant Major in the Marine Corps, and he's talking about, and he specializes in transferring a veteran service record book over to a working resume. And I've heard it several times since I've taken the position in October, veterans saying, hey, when I got out, my skills didn't necessarily translate to a civilian employer. That's what this class is about. So what we've done is we've made it free for veterans and spouses. We've also provided food. So the events are catered. I always find that the events are well attended if food is free. We're also looking, as I said, we're thinking about Rum Bellies. I think that's a good spot. Very, very friendly owners, good venue, right there at the crossroads of Washington County. So we're going to be replicating those events there. So each month we'll have a veterans specific topic, including food. So if you, I don't know if any of you have Facebook, family and friends that have, that are veterans, certainly look us up. And the other part is I've made a connection with a monthly publication in Greenwich that they said they have pretty good circulation. They've agreed to allow me to write a monthly article and provide pictures and calendar of events, and it's free. So free to me anyway. So because one of the things that I'm finding is that veterans in Washington County, if they have internet, they don't have a computer. If they have a computer, they don't have Facebook. So I can't rely on Facebook to be the only medium of getting the word out. So I'm looking for other ways to make sure that veterans are informed that these events are free to them. They're going to be of tremendous benefit, if for no other reason, because they're connecting with other veterans. And we've had a tremendous amount of success thus far. But as I said, it's slow going. We've been able to connect with some veterans in need in Argyle, veterans in need in Greenwich, veterans in need in Whitehall. We're making good progress. It's just it's taking some time. So other things we have going on tonight: movement therapy, also known as yoga. I didn't want to publish it as yoga because I thought for sure some folks would be like, no. So we called it movement therapy. Toby Gifford, who is a world-class gymnast, she's running the class. We've contracted her. We're starting with once a month. And again, we're looking for another venue that would be suitable for this type of event. But I can say personally that yoga has helped me overcome some of those old injuries that I sustained when I was in the Marine Corps. The older we get, the less flexibility we have, and some of those old injuries, they really start to surface. Yoga, I think, is quite helpful. And as I said, we've been slightly, deceitful by calling it movement therapy, but Toby's been great. We have our first class tonight, again, free to veterans and spouses from 4:30 to 5:30 this evening. So, and I've popped flyers up all over the place. I've been in close contact with the American Legion and the VFWs in the region, so they know it's coming down. And I think they're beginning to look at me as an ally because I make consistent checkups. I have quite a few veterans that I'm dealing with personally. The housing security thing bothers me quite a bit. So, and a lot of these folks just don't, it's you've ever been down that path. It's a dark place because you hate hearing no all the time. It's a sad place to be. So, if anything, I can help these folks and just give them a positive place to, where they can sound off, but also look for the resources necessary to help them with where they're at. So, we're making progress, but it's been slow going. It's growing quickly, but we still have a lot. So, of course,
Anyone have any questions for Jim?
I just have a comment. Here, I got to watch Jeremy. I went down to be a guest speaker at the dedication and kiosk at the new Adirondack between exit 17 and 18 Welcome Center that's down there. And the idea of the kiosk is that it's going to be able to see individuals that come through and see that there's veterans benefits and give them a contact number or just something where a lot of people just stand around reading those things anyways. It's hopefully for that. But what is still upsetting to me, and this is not on Jeremy, Warren County still identifies their program when they speak about this program is Warren County's and SUNY's Adirondack, which is not the case. So what I would ask of you is that, and I've seen you do it before, but to continue on the track, when you announce your program that it's Washington County, Warren County, or Warren County, Washington County, I don't care how you do that, in conjunction with SUNY, okay, because we are the sponsors of that. And the reason I say that is you're putting the information out, but I still have veterans that see something from Warren County, I'll clip it like from that. And it says, well, how come we don't have that in Washington? Well, we do. Okay. And
one of the initiatives I've spoken with Kent about this is I spend 2 days a week in Washington County. And these folks in Washington County, they're starting to get to know me, especially the stewards. I've already created a plan. And the reason I say stewards is because they're very generous to the veterans in the area. They're very open to us setting up shop there. And what we do is we buy coffee, breakfast sandwich, donut, whatever it is they're having that day. And I have an opportunity to speak with them. So I have an actual schedule that I've laid out with Stewart's Corporate for Tuesdays and Thursdays. So we'll be at a different location throughout Washington County every Tuesday and Thursday throughout the month. And I always make sure that I clarify, well, we cover both Warren and Washington County. Simply because first, that's the reality. But one of the things that Rob has asked me to do is make sure that we increase participation in Washington County. And I think we've done a pretty good job thus far. We're certainly not finished. You know, and as when I speak with folks about the program and about our demographics, I said, you know, the two counties are similar but different. Because there's some regions in northern Warren County that are quite similar to Washington County. It's quite spread out, somewhat isolated. You know, internet access is spotty at best. So as I said, you know, a lot of the work that I do is on the ground. And I just come across, I think I freak some people out sometimes because I'm always carrying a flyer. If I see you wearing a hat, I'm going to tell you about the program. I seized upon a gentleman at Lowe's the other day. I think I scared the crap out of him. He was a Vietnam vet. He was a Marine. And I told him Semper Fi. At first, they're like, what's this guy selling me? But then once I give them, you know, the heads up about what we do, I said, I don't want anything. I just want you to enjoy the program, come out, hang out with us, take advantage of this stuff that we're offering. So I do this everywhere I go. So I might come across as a vacuum cleaner salesman, but it's proven effect. I haven't been punched yet, so I think I'm doing something right. Smile.
Jeremy, in the meantime, I'm gonna ask Gina to do something for you.
Absolutely, thank you. So my name is Gina, I'm the director for Washington County's Office for Aging. And Office for Aging oversees and operates a program called New York Connects. Our New York Connects program serves all ages and populations, and we do like to share information for veterans. We partner with Manchester Papers, and we circulate a supplement in the free press called Community Connections. We offer departments like veterans to submit articles to us.
That's it, the Community Connections. That's I can't remember who it is I spoke.
So it's a free opportunity for you to provide us with an article. We can put that in Community Connections monthly, and it circulates over 22,000 households.
Yeah, so I think the submission date is the first Friday of every month, right?
You're good.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we have to have the information well in advance.
Yep. Yeah, no, I spoke with someone from the Connects publication, and as I said, I'm looking for, because you know, I'm a historian by trade. I'm a pretty good writer, and we take photos as long as folks allow us to. We certainly don't want to publish their images if they're unwilling to have them published. But I want the faces of the veterans throughout Washington County to be seen. The one gentleman that I've met with, who I've actually formed a close bond with him, Bob. He's a great guy. He's a Korean War vet. He's 84. He looks fantastic, and he was able to connect us with another veteran who's really struggling. So, you know, and he knows that he seems to know everybody. And these are the types of relationships we're trying to build. But if they don't know we're there, they're a little bit hard to find. So I'm hoping that once we start getting this publication out and rolling, that we'll be able to even, you know, make a more broad reach throughout the county. But again, as I said, you know, I'm on the ground, you know, even after the coffee events in the morning on Tuesday and Thursday, I just kind of drive around, you know, and then check folks out and ask how they're doing and check on vets that I already know that are there. Mr. Hughes, the one in Greenwich, you know, I think he's legally blind. Can't see well. He lost his license. He has no car, you know, and he's kind of stuck there. So, you know, I check on him periodically to make sure he's okay. And he's got Bob next door to help him out too. So, so I'm certainly going to be taking advantage of that. And any, please, you know, if anyone knows that there's a veteran in need, you know, our mission is to help vets, you know, and many of the things that we want to help folks with, we can't necessarily help with directly, but I can certainly guide them to the resources that will help.
Makes sense. Good question.
Jeremy, I'm Melissa Fitch, I'm the county administrator.
I just want to let you know that we had meetings, I don't even know, was it a year ago or maybe it was longer than that, about this peer-to-peer program, with Ken and with Chairman at the time, Mr. Hall. And at that time, the program definitely, we couldn't get, or you couldn't get a coordinator. It was real, I guess, effective. The program it was really struggling with the two counties, and Washington County wasn't really, I guess, felt we weren't heard or even seen out there. So I think it's so refreshing to see you in this role, and the outreach that you have already done in a short amount of time. Just want to thank you.
Well, and I don't know if I indicated this last time I was here, you know, I had a good buddy of mine who was a Marine, really struggled after he was medically discharged because he was injured. You know, the Marine Corps wants everybody 100% deployable. Once he got discharged, he struggled, he committed suicide. And then I had another buddy of mine who wound up retiring, and like many military marriages, it didn't end well. And after he retired, that mission was gone, and he literally drank himself to death. They didn't find him for 3 or 4 days after he died. And that image, those two fine Marines, they were fine individuals. They were excellent examples of Americans. The thought of someone struggling out there and just being by themselves, it puts tremendous pressure on me to continue to get, God, I gotta find someone else. So, you know, and I have roots in Washington County. I've got not only some very good friends out here, but I taught out here as well. So, you know, I know that veterans are out there. Some don't want to be found. I'm going to find them. So, you know, I bring that Marine tenacity to the position. So, so I appreciate, you know, I thank you. Please let me know how I can help. That's what I'm here for. You know, if you happen to know of a veteran that needs help, or a veteran family member, you know, we got connected with a family out in Argyle that needed a new stove. Now, I didn't buy them the stove, but I was able to find them a stove that was going to fit in their kitchen. You know, a buddy of mine who was like, oh, we just upgraded, you know. I was like, hey, can I take that from you? I was like, yeah, we don't want it. So we wound up getting it to this family out in Argyle. So this is the type of stuff, it seems little, but for folks in a little bit of a crisis, you know, not being able to cook and not being able to afford something to replace, you know, something that we sometimes take for granted. You know, that's I consider that a big one. So
I think Rob has a question.
Go ahead, I'll go after.
I didn't echo some of what you said. Sorry, kind of late, it would have been nice to get a conversation, but I was in the service way back in Vietnam now, and I can speak the stories you're talking about friends who you thought were very well acclimated, and you served in them, and combat role, coming back, and all of a sudden, middle of the night, one night, a friend of mine went out. He was probably 10 years older. He was like in his late 30s. Went out his car and just shot himself. No one even saw that coming. I mean, that's how well acclimated he seemed to be on the outside. And I had a couple other friends, the same type of story, not as dramatic as that one. They saw the clues, but it is. And secondarily, with veterans, there's a lot of veterans who do not know the assistance is here for them. I've been friends that said, you talk to veterans, like, oh, I didn't think about that. I didn't know about it. I didn't know I was qualified for that because they were not retired. They were officers, but they had out and saying those couple of stories I'm talking about. Didn't know anything was available to them. So I think the message is getting the message out is so important and so needed to help people because there is severe needs out there for veterans.
I'm sure there is. And the other part is especially for younger veterans, they don't recognize how valuable they are to a workplace. You know, and if they're having difficulty transitioning, even just finding a job, we're like, oh, this guy shows up on time in the right uniform and does what he's told. You know, he or she's told. That's a great employee right off the bat, and they're, you know, they can be trained. So that's another initiative on our part. You know, is connecting folks, getting them employed, and helping out some of these area businesses. I swear, everywhere I look, there's help wanted signs. So hire a vet, right?
So I guess I just wanted to comment, also kind of echoing comments. You struggle with this program in the beginning, really getting it off the ground and getting it going. And I feel like we've really hit a home run. I think we have a good fit. We knew by awarding it to SUNY, there were some challenges. We wanted to make sure that it wasn't viewed as a student program or a campus program. Definitely needed to be a community program. Kudos, Jeremy, I think you're doing that. You're getting it in the community. It would be a challenge with it cited, at SUNY to make it clear that it is available to Washington County and it's a joint county program. Jeremy's done a great job in terms of keeping us informed. He regular communication to myself and the veterans director. So thank you for that. We also set up an advisory committee, and it includes the veterans director from the counties, myself, and some veterans, and that's still kind of forming, but we've had some meetings with just the four of us. And great job.
Well, another part, I don't know if I mentioned this also, I'm sorry to talk so long. We created initiatives for veterans to come out. I just made a deal with the Glens Falls YMCA that if a veteran comes to 3 events, they get 3 months at the YMCA for free, right? So that's one, I've spoken with the folks at the Greenwich YMCA. The director there got COVID, so she was out for a little while. But now she's, we're going to set the same thing up for Washington County as well. Just, hey, come to a coffee event, like your Stewart's Milk Club card, you get 3, you get 3, right? So it's pretty good. Plus I've hired 3 staff members, all veterans. The other initiative that the state has asked me to undertake is focusing on military sexual trauma. I think it's a big initiative at the federal level as well. And it's one of those things. I hired a veteran to be a peer mentor, and really it was quite heartwarming because she said, this is the first time in years that I felt proud of my service, because she's going to be able to help other veterans. And I wanted to make sure that we had someone on staff that was going to be, endearing to someone who was struggling with MST. They may or may not want to talk to me, but talking to a survivor of the terrible crisis I think would be helpful to quite a few vets. So.
In the meantime, are there any more questions? I want to thank Ken, who's kind of silently there in the background, and I know strong support.
Well, Ken and I talk quite a bit, so he's helping me out a lot. Well, and plus, I know how difficult it is. These guys are bogged down. In order to do that job well, you have to be thorough. You have to be meticulous. If I can, I said it the other day at the kiosk meeting. I'm like a corporal. For those of you that have served, you understand what that means. I'm on the ground where the rubber hits the road, and that's okay with me. It's very good corporal. So, as far as I'm concerned, meeting vets, it's a great job, and then helping them out even better, So as far as I'm concerned, it's much less work than any other job I've had up to this point. So.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you, everyone.
Yes, everybody.
I just have one more thing. First, I just want to echo everyone's comments on Jeremy's work so far. He has done a tremendous job, and it's exciting and refreshing to be able to work with him. And as promising as I thought this program was going to be before, I'm 100 times more excited about it now that Jeremy's on board. The only other thing I have is simply to request permission to pay my office's County Veteran Service Office Association dues for this year. Required, they're $40 a piece, myself and the deputy director. And that's all I have.
Second.
It was
So it's in your budget?
all $80 of it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Go ahead, Joe.
So this goes to some of the other things that's in your budget and you just execute your budget. I don't believe there's a requirement to come to committee to request permission to do that. It's what we appreciate.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you.
One last thing, folks, I talked so long. I have a flyer, if anybody's interested, for some movement therapy class. Bring one over. Anybody else? Movement therapy. Remember, it's not yoga. Even though I bought yoga mats for anyone else.
I think probably all of us want one.
Thank you. All right, very good.
I'll take one.
Hope we'll see you there. Sure.
Thank you, Joe.
You're welcome. Thank you, everyone.
Who's fitting?
Well, we don't want to scare anybody away with yoga pants.
Thanks, Chairman.
Have a good night, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay.
Well, there's a nice movement there if you would have some, entertainment as well.
You're right.
Okay, everybody, Rob, volunteering to go for it. Yeah.
One of the things that impressed me too is that when you think about it, the veterans from different eras have such different needs. And so he's very in tune to that and trying to develop programming and outreach that reaches out to the different generations, differences.
It was interesting, I mean, with, and also disabilities, serving somebody that's blind, that's helping your neighbor. He's looking at, everyone from an individual point of view also, and trying to reach out to them in their homes with, it's a hard thing to do. And, but he is making headway and he's doing an excellent job. The program has been very well received, so. Anything else, Brooke? No? Mike? Yeah.
Morning, everyone. I'll be brief. First thing, I just want to bring up, every year we bring a group of youth down to the Capitol to meet with our legislators and look at the legislative process. And this year is no exception. Well, we had a 2-year hiatus, but on February 7th, I'd like permission, Jill, to bring a group down and purchase lunch from money's funds in the budget. But
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Sounds great.
all right, great. And also the state released our allocations, which is surprising so early for the new fiscal year this year for YDP Youth Development Program funding. We're changing from the calendar year to the federal year. So we have our 9-month allocation that we just received. We'll be convening our youth board to allocate those funds, and I'll be bringing them to you for approval. Also, I mentioned this to Al previously about the possibility of rolling the resource allocation process from Warren County, their funds, having them committed to us and following our procedure. It would be more efficient. Of course, Warren County is still retaining the rights to approve. They have the same approval on the RAP process as this committee and full board. So I'm going to be approaching that with Warren County officials and then bring it back for your final approval at that. So
do we need a motion to?
not yet.
So we would be like the lead agency
Okay.
in this funding, right?
Yeah, that's it. It'll be so it's a good move. This change to the federal year will allow us to have access to unspent funds across the state. It's not a huge pot of money. YDP is about, with the reappropriation, about $16 million, where we have municipalities and the larger municipalities that don't spend the money. So it goes back to budget, and it's hard to make the case here so that it's underfunded when you're not using the funds across the state. So this process will help us to identify those municipalities that are not using their dollars, and then give us a chance to bring them back into our kind of, which we've been doing, working with DSS on other funding streams. It's been very successful to get additional revenue. So that's all. It's all in favor of it. But that's all I have. Oh, and Winterfest, thank you. Winterfest, I know I could kill if I went over there and didn't say that. But Winterfest, of course, is a county collaboration, and we're scheduled for Saturday, February 4th from 10 to 3 at Lake Lauderdale. We have our fingers crossed for ice. We'll have NCON check the ice prior to going on it, but it's full support from everyone. It's easier. Well, I can't think of a department that doesn't know about. So
Yeah, the notification came through Carpenter Extension yesterday or the day before, so they're on board.
yeah, they're great. And DPW is going to allow us to put a sign out there next to the road to really, because it's been a few years that we haven't had it. And, we have some snow, so we're going to get some more snow. We just need a safe place for them when they slide and stop. So, and that would be the lake. That's it. We time it around there. 6-hour water rescue.
There you go.
No, we're not gonna do anything like that, Roger. So, we're good.
Should have mentioned it while he was out of the.
We got a big bonfire to warm up. I mean, thank you all too for the support on that. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah, we have ice rescue. teams.
Yeah.
Well, they sometimes they're there demonstrating, and so then.
I like those demonstrations and throw board for water. I always like.
Hi, everyone.
Hello.
I think the first thing on the agenda that I had was an overnight travel request. Our health educator is requesting to go to Lake Placid for a few nights for a New York State Child Passenger Safety Technical Conference. The hotel is paid for by the Governor's Traffic Safety Board. And her grant, her child passenger safety grant covers the cost of registration, which is $200. And in her grant, she does have in her grant that there's 2 other people that would also are included in that grant to go to this conference. One is from the Sheriff's Department and the other one is from the LEAP program. So just looking for permission for that overnight travel for our health educator. And again, it's 100% funded.
So move.
Second. Any questions? All in favor?
All right.
All right, that's good.
The next item on the agenda is our professional advisory committee appointment request. We have, by our licensed home care service agency regulations, we are required to hold 4 professional advisory committees meetings per year. Those have not happened in the past several years due to COVID. So we're looking to restart those meetings. So there are a list of people that I have that have agreed to be on the committee. So I'm just looking for permission to appoint them to the committee. It's a 3-year term. And again, we meet quarterly. So I have for the people I have Dr. Guerra, he's our medical director. I have Mark Spezio from Cambridge Valley Rescue Squad, Andrea Bonacci from the Adirondack Rural Health Network, which is also part of the Adirondack Health Institute. I have Kathy McIntyre. She would be our community representative. Beth Bruno from the Fort Hudson Health Systems. And then from HCR Home Care, I have 2 people. I have Carrie Charette and Penelope Van Wart. They rotate off and on when they're in our county because they're actually stationed up in Plattsburgh. And then they come into our county on different weeks at the Hudson Falls location. So it'll be one or the other that would be at our committee meeting. I have Sign Crisp from Glens Falls Hospital. And then there'd be myself, Eliza Arlen, Pat Williams and Deb Darfler, which are 2 of our nurses. And that's it. That's who I'd like to appoint to that committee with your permission.
Do we have a motion? Okay, second. Okay, all in favor? All right.
Thank you.
Wait.
Yeah. And then the third item I have is a request to purchase a printer for public health. Currently, we have 1 main printer. We're looking to purchase another similar printer for our building. It would be 100% funded under our public health preparedness grant. The cost is $5,000. We did get quotes on that. The lowest bid came in through Sealy. So we'd like to request permission to purchase that for our building in addition to the one we have.
I'll move. Have
And I'll second it.
a few years back, there was a program started about purchasing printers to unify, and it wasn't necessarily getting the lowest bid. It was to make them all compatible. So you bought your ink and you bought all that. Are you aware of that? Is that in this consideration of purchases?
Yes, Tina has been in contact with IT and with purchasing, and that is always the goal. We don't have wasted toners that nobody can use.
Right.
Yeah.
For the service plan.
So all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, Al, sorry.
So
You're looking for a budget amendment? You don't need permission. You
Right,
don't permission to buy it.
so with the resolution request that I have, Fran has put the money in the right account to carry over the grant from the public health preparedness grant, so she put it into the .2s. With
So
the
it'll be-
carryover.
It's in the right account on the rollover. grant?
Yes, yep.
Beautiful.
Next item I have is, I think you have a packet there of resolutions. I don't know if you want me to go through one by one for approval, if that's what I need to do, or can I do them all?
They're all grant carries over.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
saw that carryovers. I mean, what if we don't carry them over? What do we do?
You don't spend it.
So,
If you don't spend it, you don't get it.
I'm okay with it.
Right.
Motion to approve the carryovers.
and Cassie seconds, Jay second. Okay, any discussion? On the favor?
I gotta go back to this further, but first, because of the fact that I had this issue with Emerson. We've got, somehow or other, we've ended up with 4 printers for one of those towns. When you buy a printer, you also buy a contract, right, with the printer. And going into this program, what? No contract?
I have 2 copiers that are networked that have maintenance contracts, and then I have 3 printers that have no contract on them.
And is this the way that they're all set up now?
Most of the printers do not have a maintenance contract.
Okay,
If they're just standalone printers. If it's like an all-in-one scanner copier printer, those
And
have
this,
maintenance.
and this one is, this is a, it's a printer, copier, scanner, and it will have a maintenance contract on it.
it does have a main.
It does, and it's similar to the one we have now, which really does benefit us, with the amount of printing that we do.
And how much is that? They're big, that's a big number.
They're not that bad, maintenance contracts.
Well, and the only reason, I'm sorry.
But
The only reason I'm bringing it up because that wouldn't be grant funded. And I'm always watching an eye down how many printers we have. If you get into this maintenance contract and when the funding goes away, you've got a big number that you're locked into every year. And I just want to make everybody aware of that. And I was concerned of it. As long as you're aware of it,
yeah, and
no one's going
But I
to.
think Fran and Tina will get it to fit under the grant ongoing. I don't think that'll be a problem.
Okay.
yeah, fortunately, we are able to claim, the maintenance, on our grants and also on state aid. So
Thank you.
we are covered there.
I think Dave had a question.
I was just gonna say, most printers, especially around the Staples and other places, can't get additional maintenance contract on it. Generally, I never buy a maintenance contract because it's gonna break, it's gonna break, and if somebody.
You almost spend more than the replacing the printer would be.
Yeah.
But normally you don't have maintenance contracts with printers unless you get the big high speed printers.
Yep.
Copiers, then there will be maintenance. But that is also optional. You pay for service. I know I'm going to base, but I guarantee you the service coming in, if you have a slight problem with the maintenance IT can't fix, it's gonna be a lot to have someone come on a per hour basis.
Right. And getting them there too, in a timely
Yeah.
basis. That contract. So we're getting the resolutions.
Yep, we can.
Next, I have the community health assessment. And I don't know how you'd like to do this. I had it sent out by email to the committee. It's over 100-page document. There's a lot of information in there about the health of our community, a lot of statistics. That information comes from the New York State Health Indicators, as well as a couple different surveys that were done. If you recall, we did a stakeholder survey last summer, and then we also did, or actually that was in the beginning of the year, and then we did a community survey at the Washington County Fair and also on our website. So this report is a combination of all of that data together. And then we come up with a community health improvement plan at the end, and all of this has to be submitted to the Department of Health. And then we do follow-ups each year. This particular community health assessment is for 2022 to 2024. And then the community health improvement plan, like I said, we'll have to report on that each year as far as what our progress is through the year. So I do, like I said, I do have a detailed report here with a lot of information. Or I can just kind of go through the community health improvement plan. I can do that as well to show you know, what our plan is over the next couple of years. So we can do that as well.
Is everybody okay with going over the community health improvement plan at the end? Or do you want to go page by page?
No, I don't want to.
Well, no, so I've read it, I really haven't done some of this myself in the past. I appreciate all the hard work that, I know somebody drilled down through this, through the report and then linked all these metrics together. And hopefully this is used to sustain the grant programs, I guess, that are funding this, so good work.
Thank you.
All I can say.
Thank you. It was really
Not easy.
the collaboration of a lot of different agencies within the county. Obviously, we can't do all this ourselves. We really do depend on those outside agencies and internal departments as well to help us with our plan. So we have to pick 2 priority areas from all of the data that's here. So the 2 priority areas that, based on the information within the community health assessment that were picked, that really rose to the top are prevent chronic disease and promote well-being and prevent mental and substance abuse disorders. So under the priority area of prevent chronic disease, the focus area, one is tobacco prevention. If we look at the report, we are the highest, we do have the highest smoking rate within New York State. At about, I think it's like 35% is where we're at. And that's based on 2018 data. That's the newest data that's out there right now. So we are working on, I know the November meeting, I believe it was, there was a disparity project mentioned that Glens Falls Hospital has relating to Washington County and the tobacco issue. So we are working with them, collaborating with them. We do have 2 people that just finished the tobacco cessation program. They're tobacco cessation specialists. So they'll be able to go out into the community and do tobacco cessation training. So that's going to be one of our interventions. And again, that's with the support of Glens Falls Hospital with their disparity project. Also with AHI, which is the Adirondack Health Institute, we are supporting a survey that they're doing through the clean air of the Southern Adirondacks. DSS and Sunny Admin has given them the okay to do a survey down in the lobby. So that's going to be, I believe it's February 3rd. They'll be down there, and there's a survey that they're going to be doing as recipients come in. So just wanted to let you all know about that. So that's another way we're going to try to gather more information there. The second focus area under prevent chronic disease is preventive care and management. So we have several interventions that we're trying to get across there. We know that obesity is an issue within the state, but within our county as well. And that leads to multiple other things, in diabetes, just other health issues that go along with that. So we also are having our health educator trained to deliver an evidence-based program for chronic disease prevention. She's also going to be continuing her Tai Chi for arthritis program. And we do that with the assistance of OFA, and they have some funding for us for that. And she actually has a full class right now over at Burgoyne. So that's going well. And then the cancer screening rates, we really want to get those cancer screening rates up in Washington County. So we are working with the hospital on that and the cancer service program to distribute. They have a cancer screening program for people with no self-insurance, underinsured. So we'll be helping them promote that program as well. And then under promote well-being and prevent mental and substance abuse disorders, our goal there is to prevent opioid overdose deaths. So we have had meetings with the Council for Prevention to support them with their Teen Intervene and their Too Good for Drugs program out in the schools. We also are promoting the naloxone kits to be available in the schools and throughout other Washington County businesses, still supporting that program. And we are working internally here in the county, different departments on how to maximize the opioid settlement funds as well. So that's a program that's in process right now. So that's really the summary. Not that we're going to not be doing our other work as well. But these are the things that we're going to be focusing on, and these are our priority areas for 22 to 24. Any questions on that? I know it's a lot of information. And once you go through this online, and if anybody wants a hard copy, let me know. We can definitely get one to you. But if you have questions when you're going through, I know it's a lot of information, just call or send me an email.
Are you resourced right now adequately to tackle your priority interests?
We're getting there. The fellowship program has been wonderful for us. We just brought on a third fellow who's actually focusing strictly on the tobacco cessation program with the hospital and with other organizations as well. So that's been wonderful. And that doesn't expire till June of 2024. We also were approved for the another health educator position. And we just recently received some wonderful applications for that. So we're hopefully going to be interviewing within the next week or so for that position. So yes, I believe for what we have here, I think we'll be okay staff-wise.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions for Tina?
Okay.
Thank you for the
Oh, sure. Do I have
other business?
Yep. So a couple things. I wanted to let you all know we're in the process of scheduling our rabies clinics for 2023. We're working with IT to be able to use the new software that they have for people to be able to schedule that right online. Right now, people have to call our office to schedule. So we're working on that. And once we have that schedule, we'll let you all know, and it'll also be posted on our website. For COVID, I just wanted to give a quick update on COVID. It's hard for us to track the number of cases at this point because we no longer have that software that was given to us by the state. But we do know we have 4 hospitalizations at this point. We're averaging about 14 cases a day. This is New York State data, and it's based on only lab confirmed tests. And we're about a 7.1% positivity rate with those people that are getting tested at a doctor's office or hospital. We do still get home tests reported to us, but they're very few. It's usually 4 to 5 a day that people are reporting there. We also get wastewater reports every week, and that seems to be all over the place. One week it'll be way down, the next week it'll be way up. This week it was way up, but last week it had decreased significantly. So it's kind of all over the place with the wastewater. And then with flu, good news with flu, we had a 39% decrease in the number of flu cases in New York State compared to last week. So that is definitely coming down. It's still widespread, but it is definitely coming down from where it was. And then I also wanted to give you an update on WIC. As you know, Public Health sponsors the WIC program out of our office, and they're regulated by the USDA. So they have to follow when there's a public health emergency, they have to put certain waivers in place. So because the public health emergency from the Health and Human Services at the federal level was extended until April of 2023, they can have their waivers in place for 90 days after that. So I don't know if you've noticed in your communities, they haven't been coming out to do their clinics that they've been doing throughout COVID. People are not mandated to come in person until that waiver, until those waivers have expired. So because people are not mandated to come in person, they're not. So but they are still seeing people on video, they're doing phone calls, they still are busy, but they're just not out in the community like they were before because the participants are just choosing to do everything over the phone or by video. So I just want to let you all be aware of that they're not out doing those clinics in the community at this point. Hopefully they'll be back out there in July, as long as that public health emergency doesn't get extended again. The other, and I think I had mentioned this to the county admin and about the Whitehall Stewarts was previously a WIC vendor. It is the only place that people in Whitehall can redeem their benefits, their WIC benefits. They would either have to go to Granville or Hudson Falls to redeem those benefits. I did speak with Stewarts to find out why they discontinued that. USDA has a very strict minimum stock requirement that the stores have to follow. And it was not working out for Stewart's to have that, either they couldn't get the product or the product was sitting there and was expiring, and then they were having to get rid of it. So the WIC regional office has talked to Stewart's corporate as well. And it's just not something that's going to work at this point for Stewart's. The Stewart's Whitehall was the only stores in New York State that offered the WIC for people to be able to redeem their benefits there. So I just wanted to make sure you were all aware of that.
Yeah, I'd just like to let you know that we had a meeting with some of our state elected officials here back 2 weeks ago, maybe. And that was one of the things we brought up at that point in time. But the original thing that we had heard was that it was because Stewart's was concerned about getting dinged on their audits originally.
They have.
And they have. So, I mean, that's how we relayed the message, because we had that point in time. And we also explained that that's the only place people could use as a grocery store, if you will, in Whitehall.
Right.
So we haven't heard back from them, but that was put on the radar.
Yeah.
State senators, office, and the assembly people.
And WIC realizes that the WIC state and federal agency do realize that they need to come up with a different minimum stock requirement for smaller vendors. You know, Stewart's is not like a Walmart or a Hannaford, or, you know, that could carry all that product and have the volume of traffic. But it is an issue for the residents there.
Yeah, I think it's important, these meetings, that this kind of information is put out, because when it goes out to the committee, the chairman can, if he's got the information, he can reach out if he knows there's a problem. We're trying to get it addressed, but if, you know, it's just something we keep internally. Just, you know, there's no solution to the problem.
Well, we talked about this a couple months ago, maybe. WIC was going to reach out to state WIC, right, to see if there could be some kind of concession or something, because there is no grocery store nearby, to see if there could be some kind of exception so Stewart's wouldn't get dinged every time they had an audit, that they said
weren't
they
going
could
to
do
be
that.
flexible.
Okay.
Wasn't Green Mountain Market in Whitehall a WIC vendor?
Not that I'm aware of, but I could definitely check with WIC.
I haven't been there in years, but I know they're going through there. I did see.
CVS is a WIC vendor, but it's only for formula. It's not for groceries.
So the problem is in the stores, the problem is that.
Right. Which unfortunately our hands are tied there. Really comes from the federal USDA.
So in the meantime, it's
This word called waiver, a word called waiver.
Right.
All right.
to be deviation. How is that gap being filled? Do you get any part of that gap that people?
Well, we did hear, was it Eliza, with the church.
Yeah, so there is a new, they're calling it a shelf that would be United Methodist Church in Whitehall that's opened in the last couple of months, I believe. So they're running a thrift store and a food shelf open to any residents in the Whitehall School District. So that would include surrounding area as well, part of Fort Anne, Hampton. So that is available. I'm not sure what their level of supply is, if it's all dry goods, fresh produce, I'm not sure.
And how is it supplied through New York State Regional?
I'm not sure if they're going to the regional. They said they started off with some generous donations, and then their thrift store is they're using all the proceeds of the thrift store to continue to fund the food shelf.
So it's a food source, but it's not WIC driven.
Right, but there's no income requirement for it, so anybody that's participating, wouldn't be using the WIC benefits, but that is and I believe they're working with the school district as well.
Like a backpack program.
They did not mention the backpack program when I talked to them, but.
Thank you. Thanks, Tim. Anything we can do? See what we can. Okay. Any other questions for Tina? She's been working hard. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, Gina.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. So on behalf of Office for Aging, I just have a resolution to submit. And the resolution is to transfer 2022 COVID-19 response funds between appropriations to cover a deficit in appropriation line 6772. Period 2625.53, our grants, equipment, capital, COVID-19 vaccine response line. Okay, second, any discussion? All in favor? Thank you. So that is all that I have for Office for Aging. Are there any questions? That was easy. Now I'm going to move on to represent Commissioner DeLorme. Before we move on, I'd like to thank Gina and her staff for the help that they gave during the electrical outage. If they hadn't been for the Office of the Aging, I think there's our county and towns should have been in a different place. So I really thank her for the hard work. I'm talking about that and thinking about that. You know, the electrical outage had some issues. We're working towards getting that resolved. But in the meantime, there were an awful lot of people that healthcare has changed, okay? Healthcare has changed dramatically. You go in the hospital and then you're sent home. And so a lot of people that are living in their homes are older. They don't have support. They don't have the living by themselves. They could be on oxygen tanks. They're taking care of themselves at home. And so when you have 7 degrees, and it's cold and you have no heat. You know, I know I've talked about this before, but it could be a major issue. And, you know, thinking about, you know, the new things are generators, people have generators. I don't know exactly how to think about this or wonder about it, but, you know, this morning there was a 76-year-old that passed away from exposure in Rupert, Vermont, not due to heat, but due to, you know, going out and getting her mail and slipping and falling. So I guess I'm just saying, look out for neighbors, be kind to each other, be aware of your community, and think about what we do, because you can be part of that problem and solve that problem. So anyways, back to Gina, and she said, you know, Tammy is saying in Albany, so Gina's wearing tonight's thing.
So touching on that, you mentioned generators.
Yes.
It was a learning experience, you know, calling everyone. What I had done is I pulled some reports from our system and pulled up active folks that we've been serving for the past month and divided it out by town. And we zoned in working with Tim Hardy on the people who didn't have electricity. And so in making those phone calls, it was truly rewarding.
Yeah.
So what I learned with that, there were several folks who utilized generators, and in making those phone calls, the individuals were saying, hey, we have our power back on. We used a generator. I want to offer it to somebody else. So in that, I added a whole nother section on my spreadsheet and just kind of, you know, was trying to keep track of individuals who were offering up their generator to someone else.
It's incredible, because through that, you know, you realize what a network of community we have and how everyone was working so closely together. You know, kudos for the deputy patrol. You know, I have to, you know, when text back said, "Sir, the windows are all glazed over," and I said, "Well, no, that's a problem." And so we called back in, and the person was able to open up the door. Her electricity had come on, but she still didn't have heat, and she was not aware enough to know why she didn't have heat while her fuel tank was empty. And that's why she didn't, because she was sitting in front of the oven trying to get warm, and trying to keep warm. All I could think of was 2 levels, you know, because I didn't know what kind of heat she had and how it was affected with electricity. But thankfully, the deputy patrol, she let them in, found out she didn't have fuel, and we were able to get her tank full. So her house was 40 degrees, and it didn't like that for over 48 hours. It's pretty amazing, and she was strong and able to do it, but it could have been a different story.
True collaboration, I think, between departments, because the individuals that I couldn't reach and the individual that I couldn't reach, the emergency contact folks, the sheriff's deputy went out and checked on those folks. So it was definitely a multi-department effort. And
She was definitely on the list, so thank you. I'm glad she was on, but, yeah. So anyways, so at this time, for social services, the first item is an RFP waiver request. DSS has a long history of working with the consulting practice of Grove Associates in the areas of professional development since 1999. The leadership skills training that Grove have provided to us over the years is what DSS and the ADRC base our model of supervision and performance expectations on. We've had a lot of rollouts to include the leadership toolbox in 1999, 2007, and 2013. Since that time, we have engaged in various leadership skill development and management strategy workshops with multiple trainers. The effects of these alternatives have been okay, but the benefits have not been ongoing. Within a span of 4 weeks, we are experiencing retirement in 2 DSS supervisory positions. The two together had a combined 55 years of experience working for the county. Within the coming 2.5 years, we will also have the retirements of a director and a commissioner. It is critical to boost foundational skills in those currently managing and to target skill development in the mid-level and up-and-coming leaders. Knowing what we had experienced over past years and anticipating what was coming, we conducted a training needs assessment with Grove in the fall of 2022. This was done in the format of a professionally developed and data-driven survey with all employees. The data is in and has been presented to the management team, but not yet rolled out to the entire staff of DSS and the ADRC. Ideally, our next steps would be to complete the survey rollout process and to initiate targeted skill development throughout 2023. We would like to request a waiver from the RFP procurement process to continue our work with Grove Associates, which will directly complement our model of supervision and performance management. As a reminder, DSS receives an allocation from the state to fund training and related position within the agency. Additionally, we are able to claim the cost of training and receive a reimbursement through the state and/or feds for up to 75%, depending on the program. Currently, the rough estimate for Grove Associates is $20,500, but it is formed with some speculations prior to the presentation to staff of the survey results. We told them that we would present the data and what we think it means, offer what we think will resolve it, and listen to what they have to say.
Is this a professional service?
Would still need a waiver, right?
Yes.
Okay, and then this is in anticipation of developing skills so that you can promote from within, correct?
Correct.
For the continuity and transition.
Absolutely.
Do we grant this waiver or we just make a motion to move it to, is a full board? Right?
You can grant that.
We can grant it at committee level.
The other option is to do an RFP.
You're satisfied with this organization? Improvement as well?
Roger,
Yeah, I think.
excuse me, I'm sorry. If this is a contract thing that we're going to be talking about, setting up somebody, can we move an executive session to discuss this?
Well, if we're gonna talk about the hiring and the retention of
Yeah,
particular
it's about a specific
company, yeah, you can.
Can I ask the chair to do that?
Yes. I'd like to ask for a motion to move into executive session.
So move.
Yep. All in favor? Thanks, everybody. We'll be back.
Okay.